Hi again, Chris Walsh here from AOM Ministries. Ask of me and I'll give the nations and as an inheritance for you. So we should be asking God for awesome things in the nations. But today I'm going to do a real short about the hummingbird and the vulture. Everybody say after me, hummingbird or vulture. So I'm going to read this verse in Philippians chapter 4, verse 8. It's subtitled in my Bible, and meditate on these things. It says, finally, brethren, that goes for sisters too, whatever things are true, whatever things are noble, whatever things are just, whatever things are pure, whatever things are lovely, whatever things are of good report, if there be any virtue, if there be anything praiseworthy, then meditate or think on these things. So I read this story and I thought, I got to preach it. Both the hummingbird and the vulture fly over our nation's deserts. All that vultures see and all they're looking for is rotting meat, because that's what they look for. They thrive on that diet. But hummingbirds ignore the smelly flesh of dead animals. Instead, they look for the colorful blossoms of desert plants. The vultures live on what was and what's dead. They live on the past. They fill themselves with what's dead and gone. But hummingbirds live on what is. They seek new life. They fill themselves with freshness and life. Each bird finds what it's looking for. We all do. That's a little excerpt written by a guy named Steve Goodyear in Quote Magazine, recorded in Reader's Digest on May of 1990. My mom had a subscription to Reader's Digest. So the verse I open with, we're going to end in prayer with. Philippians 4:8 encourages all believers to focus our thoughts on positive, virtuous things. Instructs us to consider that which is true, honorable, just, pure, lovely, commendable, excellent, and praiseworthy. So we should be thinking good thoughts. And as I heard another minister say this week, as a man thinks, so is he. So if you want joy, you should be thinking joyful thoughts, thinking good thoughts. Remember, God really does love us. Now, I want to make a point here. Remember there was two trees in the Garden of Eden. There was the tree of life and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Well, here's the problem. Just like the vulture, the knowledge of good, they were commanded not to eat of the fruit of the knowledge of the tree of good and evil. It wasn't an apple and a serpent, like everybody said. The serpent did tempt them. But anyway, the point is this. The knowledge of good, partaken of, will end up bringing just as much death as the knowledge of evil. So some people say, well, I'm just not going to watch any horror movies, and I'm not going to watch any porn. I'm going to, stay away from evil. But here's a danger for those of us that are called of God into ministry, is we can be thinking about past testimonies, past victories, past wonderful acts of God. And the problem is, it's in the past, and the future lies before us. And God is not in the past, and he will be in our future, but his name is I Am. He's an ever-present help at a time of need. So if you think about those two trees, the knowledge of the good and evil, the knowledge of good can produce just as much death as the knowledge of evil. So let's think about God living and active and alive today in our life. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, and he came to give life and life more abundantly today. So let's believe for it. Jesus, help us to hear your voice and walk in your life and experience your life and goodness and praiseworthy deeds and mighty acts of power today. We're grateful for your mighty acts of power in the past, and we're grateful for the glorious future that you have in us in the future. But right now, today, right here, right now, we receive you, Jesus, and we believe we receive your power and might and victory now. Everybody agreed, said, amen. Of course, like and subscribe for more great Christian content. Have a good day. God bless.